On Election Day, quote, "An unassailable reason for all of us to hope for a better tomorrow was on full display at Liberty High School," end quote. That's according to Brian Greenspun, CEO, publisher, and editor of the Las Vegas Sun, who on November 8th hosted the Las Vegas Sun Youth Forum, an annual event in Southern Nevada since 1956, excluding a pause for COVID. The forum's purpose is to bring awareness to young people's perspectives on issues important to them. And joining us now to do just that are Haley Reiser, a junior at Spring Valley High School, and Orlando Moreno, a senior at Del Sol Academy. Thank you both for joining us here today. How this works is that there were numerous rooms at Liberty High School. Each was assigned a different topic, and at the end of the discussions, someone was elected to represent that room's consensus. And that is what both of you did, so congratulations. Haley, your room's topic for discussion was school days.
Yes.
What school-related issues were most prevalent in that discussion?
Well, we had questions on almost everything regarding schooling, but the main thing that my room focused on was both grade reform and the representation of students. So that being making sure that any minority student, whether that be a racial minority or a member of the LGBTQ, was represented and felt safe.
Okay, and did you identify that there is a problem with both of those?
Absolutely.
How
Absolutely.
so?
So many times, we live in a very heteronormative society, which is where there is absolutely no education both in the school and out of the school of any minority regarding sexuality. And same thing with white privilege. We learn so much about our white history, but we never learn about any Native American or Latino or any racial minority. And so we were really focusing on bringing education to include everybody in that way.
And what about grade reform? What were the issues identified with that?
So grade reform has been a very big issue among students and teachers. Both are not very pleased with it at all. What's happening right now in CCSD is that we are moving towards a very summative-based curriculum. So what that means is that all tests and anything of the sort, like essays or Socratic seminars, or anything that tests the knowledge, is becoming widely more important than the formatives, which is any classwork, homework, or anything like that. So right now, at least at my school, we have an 80-20 policy where summatives are worth 80% of the grade. However, this is driving students to not want to complete formatives at all. So any classwork just doesn't need to get done simply because of the also minimum F policy that we have. Any late work that's turned in is only a 50%. You cannot get anything below a 50% at all. And so once you average that out, if you get 100% on your test, but you don't do any work, you can still average out with an A rate. So it's driving many students to not want to do any work at all. And so we want to bring awareness to that and make every part of school just as important.
We'll talk about some solutions coming up, but Orlando, your topic was home in Nevada. What issues came up during that discussion?
Well, we touched on some environmental awareness, some anticipation for the midterms, and we also touched very heavily on education. We spoke more about the funding of education and keeping students engaged within the schools. And a lot of that came from, according to some stats I have here, according to U.S. News, as of 2022, New Jersey was the #1 performing school in the nation. Grade-wise or testing-wise, they spent $18,000 per pupil. Washington was in #4, and they spend the most per pupil in the nation. And Nevada, number 49, is way below the national average, only spending $9K per pupil. So that was just something we highlighted at the conversation, and we also spoke about student involvement, keeping students engaged after schools with clubs or fine arts, things of the sort, like social justice movements such as what Haley was involved in. And
is there a lack of that? Are there a lack of clubs?
I don't believe so. I don't believe there's a lack of clubs, but I do believe there is a lack of a push from schools and the school district in general to get kids into those clubs, because the clubs are there, but how many kids are really in those clubs? 10, 20? It's not enough. We have thousands and thousands of students at schools and only maybe hundreds in clubs.
What's the motivation for them to go into those clubs? You had talked about off camera in regards to representation, clubs that would help make minority students feel more seen and appreciated. Were there enough clubs among the students you talked to?
I don't think all around. Personally, at my school, I'm very lucky to be involved and interact with so many different clubs. Like I said, I am part of the feminist club on campus, her club, History, Education, and Representation. So that has definitely pushed a lot of togetherness in our community, and our Black Student Union is also highly, highly impressive. It's one of the largest clubs at our school, if not the largest, and they put on events for the whole school to enjoy. But in talking with the people in my room, that was not the case for all. And so especially in those lower income areas, or even just the schools that have those higher minority populations, I think it's more important to have those clubs instilled there where they're not.
Let's talk about solutions to grade reform. And both of you can talk about this because grade reform is something that's impacting you at your school as well. What would you like to see happen? What did the students talk about as a possible solution?
Personally, I would like to see a more equal distance between formatives and summatives. It doesn't have to be exactly 50-50, and it doesn't have to be that formatives are worth more than summatives, but at least getting to that 30-70 or even 60-40 range to where the summatives are worth just a bit more, it will drive students to complete their work a lot more and a lot better. And I think that instilling a late work policy, like to prepare for college, in many colleges, you cannot turn in late work without getting 10% docked per day, or at least that is in UNLV, I believe. And so I think that instilling something like that would help prepare a student for the real world, or even just for college.
And I believe that instilling late penalties and bringing those back, because we had those when my freshman year, which is 3 years ago, we had those in CCSD, but we've since gotten rid of them. And I think those really motivated students to get things done on time, whether it be summative or formative. And I feel like, honestly, 50-50 would work even better, because you shouldn't be able to pass a class, which passing is a D 60%. I don't think you should be able to pass a class just off the tests alone. I think you should have to learn how to do some of the busy work, because that's important to be able to manage your workload and be able to manage the stress that comes with it. I think it's a great skill for students to learn, especially if they're moving into higher education in colleges and universities, but also be able to perform well academically during tests and summative assignments.
So is this possibly hurting students as they are preparing for college?
Absolutely. I believe that it's going to be detrimental to build these bad habits at a young age, K through 12, and then go to college, and the rules are completely different. There's late penalties, there's a different grading system. It's not preparing us for college, it's preparing us for high school. It's preparing us for, it's failure.
Haley, back to the representation issue. One question that you were asked, all of the students, should schools be able to have lessons discussing prejudices against specific groups? Transphobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, racism, anti-Semitism. What was the consensus on that?
Absolutely. There was almost a universal opinion within my group that there is not enough history on every single group that we see in our classrooms. And so one of the largest ones was focusing on Stonewall, actually, which not a lot of people are taught this, but Stonewall is what incited the first gay civil rights movements in 1969. And so not many people know about it and are not able to see themselves within the classroom. And so that was one of the main issues, focusing more heavily on the Trail of Tears, taking away importance from people like Christopher Columbus, who have been almost idolized in our classrooms, when they very much have not been the most positive contributors to our history. And so I think that telling history and giving education in a more objective way rather than subjective would be the goal.